Hi, everybody. In this special 25th episode of the SnapRefund Podcast, we sit down with Marissa Buckley, a powerhouse marketing leader, former CMO, and now founder of RevUp, a fractional chief growth officer firm helping tech founders build authority, sharpen their messaging, and scale through powerful founder-led content systems. With more than a decade of leadership at Security First Insurance, where she led digital transformation, branded new revenue-generating products, and built award-winning customer experiences, Marissa has shaped some of the insurance industry's strongest brands. As CMO at InsurTech Hartford, she helped elevate one of the industry's most influential ecosystems. Now with RevUp, she equips founders with the frameworks, content systems, and personal branding tools needed to stand out, own their category, and grow with intentions. Today, we unpack the art and science of building a brand in insurance and how executives and founders can use content to drive real revenue, and what it takes to cut through the noise in a crowded, fast-moving tech landscape. Marissa, for anyone who doesn't know your journey, how did RevUp come to life, and what gap were you aiming to fill?
Great to be here, Anise, and thanks for such a wonderful introduction. I'm going to have to make sure that I get that recorded and just play it for people.
You will, you'll have it.
But thank you. So great to be here. I would say I started in insurance on accident, just like everybody else. My background's in computer science and marketing. So when I applied to oversee marketing for the company, they told me that they were looking to revolutionize insurance and were going to invest in technology significantly. So I was completely on board with that and stayed with the company for almost 15 years. We did a lot. We were a Florida homeowners insurance company. I was about employee number 18. And we grew to be the largest privately held insurance company in Florida. So second to Citizens, among the privately held, we were number one. And we grew fast over about 4-year period when I was there, but partnered with a lot of InsurTechs over my time there, built an actual integration layer that made it easy for us to partner with InsurTechs. And then our market, Florida's home insurance market, got hit by fraud pretty significantly. There was several loopholes in Florida insurance law that allowed attorneys to multiply their fees, among other things. So we would have claims settlements for $15,000, but attorneys' fees and for $150,000 to $200,000 for that same claim. That's how bad it was. Some companies became insolvent, but our company did not. But we didn't have a tech budget for a lot of those years. And so I knew I would lose my grip on technology if I didn't stay involved with using modern technology. And then had an executive recruiter reach out to me and said, you really should own your value and explore being a fractional executive. I had no idea what a fractional executive was at that time. That was about 5 years ago. And he said he had lots of startup founders I could speak with. We had grown to be 500 employees at that time. And then I said, well, let me talk to a few founders. And I did, and I forgot how much I missed the startup life, having grown to be an organization of 500 employees, and just was so inspired and jumped ship, started my own company, and here I am.
That's amazing. It's always amazing too to see how many people in the industry don't start within it. So that's a very similar sentiment to, I think, most people that I've met in the space. Now, at RevUp, you're helping founders stand out, scale up, and ultimately own their market. But it seems like the market is more saturated than ever, right? Everyone's trying to find their way to make a voice. What does it take today for a startup founder to actually stand out?
Great question, Cody, and especially coming from you. I would say to follow your suit and Anise's suit. Like, founders should really look at your profiles and see the content that you're producing. I'll go back just a few years when I first became aware of you, Cody, and SnapRefund, and seeing your content and the stories you were telling about the startup life. And you were basically doing somewhat of a public build and posting your journey in the most authentic way. And I see some founders out there doing that, but it might be all positive things. You want to really communicate the challenges as well. And at that time, you were seeking funding, but you posted about investor bias at the same time. And I thought, what a remarkable person to have the courage to do that while you're seeking funding. I thought, okay, now I'm going to watch what they're posting every day. I'm going to put you on that. I need to see all posts, follow. And I would say that authenticity and talking about the real challenges, the real human stories, seeing Anis come into his content and how he was summarizing things, and he had themed content where he was posting certain things on Fridays, and he wraps up every event that he goes to. I would say that really helps me to see who SnapRefund really is. And back in my day at Security First Insurance, we partnered with tons of startups. We had even so many startups that we had some startups that were competing with one another. We would partner with both companies. So, and in that sense, what I saw was a huge challenge for them was that they had a hard time communicating who they were and the value of their technology. And so I think overall, the both of you as leaders at SnapRefund do an exceptional job at that, but then also you're consistent. So I know exactly what your technology does. I know the problems that it solves because you're really consistent about it. So I would say know the value of your technology in terms of the solution that you're bringing to your audiences, which might be a few different segments and a few different problems, and just reinforce that over and over and over in different ways, but with a personal side to it so that people learn about the individuals that are behind the company. Because I will say any claims technology, payment technology company that were to come to me, if I were with a carrier, they'd have a really hard time beating out SnapRefund.
Well, thank you so much for that, Marissa, because one of the things that I really love about you and following your content, as you started to follow us, we started to follow you as well. And it's really, you're a strong advocate for founder-led content. You see what the founders are doing. You really want to continue to cultivate the insurance space, and especially through technology, right? So why is founder visibility becoming one of the strongest growth levers in B2B?
I will say that I bet you I am speaking for everyone that's ever talked with a startup tech founder, is that you get these emails where they're requesting an introduction, but you really never get the chance to see how amazing the individual is, right? So I think that visibility with finding ways to meet with people in person or just to tell real stories. When Cody and you are posting content, you're not only telling real stories, you're communicating the hardship, but you're also painting a picture of how it could be better. And then that helps me to see, I wanted to change that for Cody in that moment when he talked about that. I thought, man, that is so, not only is it so difficult for a startup founder to make it to year 3, let alone year 2, but to have investor bias as a hurdle that isn't a hurdle for the other startup founders that aren't making it is extremely difficult. That makes it 100 times more challenging. So I was like, okay, I am going to be an advocate somehow for this company. And then when I learned about your technology at ITC, I watched Cody's, he did a pitch. He was part of the startup zone there. And I'm like, I'm going to check all these startup founders out. And it was part of the Black Founders Initiative with, what was the mutual? It was some mutual company.
Northwestern Mutual,
that's right. And I saw all of these founders speaking, and Cody had just posted about this not too far ahead of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, such great technology. How do we solve this problem? And so made it a point to meet Cody in person and then learned even more about your company and technology. But he took the time to ask about me. He took the time to ask about Security First Insurance, where I worked previously. And he even set up meetings with me and asked me about the industry. You probably maybe a year and a half in that we met. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's amazing. You only see a few other founders. Any founder that reaches out to me and says, hey, can you talk to me about insurance and help me understand this? I'm definitely, because now I know you really care and you really want to solve the problem. So that part of putting yourself out there in person at events, your pitch was amazing, Cody. Like, not a lot of startup founders can pitch well, but you did fantastic. I'm like, this guy, where did he come from? Philly. Philly is making some amazing startup tech founders. And
I appreciate it.
so I think that is super important. Like, I don't think founders really realize that how important it is to hone your pitch, like know it like the back of your hand. I will say Ira Ziff, he's an executive recruiter, but he's also great at helping people with their pitch. And he always said, start with imagine. And I never forgot that. And I think when you paint a picture for people, that's great advice on getting their pitch right. But you guys had your pitch right, have your pitch right, know the value of your company to the industry and to individual segments, and be as authentic, be brave and authentic as you can, and bring up those challenges, even the hard ones when you were seeking money and you thought, I might offend some investors, but this is important. I'm going to say this story. It's like, man, I want to be an investor just to support you guys.
Well,
that visibility.
Yeah, it's equal parts maybe stupidity and courage with some of those posts, but you do what feels authentic, and I think it attracts the right people to you. And
that's a great point. I said to somebody before, and maybe you guys can say that, like you put your mouse on that publish button and you stop and you think and you reread what you wrote. You're like, should I post this? And sometimes you do, and then you're like, you look at it and you're like, maybe that's a little cringy what I wrote. That's me personally. And I was talking with a friend of mine and I'm like, but you just have the courage to post the cringy stuff that you don't know is cringy until you see the lack of reaction, but you learn from all of those things. And I think that courage and boldness, even if you aren't sure and you're just like, I don't know if I should do this, but like probably for you, Cody, you were like, this is part of my core values. I've got to put this out there, and you did it anyway. That's when you're like, just do it anyway. Who cares? And 100%. The friend said to me, Marissa, people forget the cringy stuff. They'll always know you for who you really are, and they'll always continue to see what you're publishing and posting. So keep going for the uniqueness of your content.
Yeah, well, you do it well, truthfully.
Thank you.
I think that's part of what lets you stand out. And it's interesting as we talk about brand building from a founder-led or individual standpoint, we have a lot of really good insights that have been dropped here. Now, if we shift gears a bit to brand building more at the corporate level, building a brand for a product, for a company, what have you learned about creating differentiation in such a regulated, slow-moving industry for the actual corporate or company level branding that has to happen for these products?
Great question. So I will say my time with an insurance carrier, I was constantly pleading and negotiating with the legal department and the underwriting department. They would say, you can't have this as part of the UX and let's say our instant quote, because it's not the same question that we have on the policy. Well, the question that we have on the policy form is going to get people to close the window and not finish the instant quote. So how about if we just work through the language, re-ask the question when it is time to issue the policy. We can re-ask the question in a different channel. But how about we A/B test that so I can show you what that conversion looks like? So we had those sorts of conversations that made it extremely difficult to do what you knew was best in marketing on the front end. But you were in a regulated industry and you had those hurdles to go through, and you couldn't make those changes as quickly as you'd like. That is another hard part of working for an insurance carrier in this industry. There's a lot of hurdles to go through. Now, for Security First Insurance, because we partnered with so many startup tech companies, the tech companies became the experience. And so we partnered with you early on and were able to co-create technology as well. So we were able to leverage the amazing experiences that tech companies deliver. You had you didn't have the same legal hurdles that we had, but you could brand You could tailor the brand to the messaging so it was more of a unified experience. So in some cases, we had co-branded technology with companies, and that gave us a little bit more freedom from the stringent rules that we had to apply to when we were delivering our own experience without that co-branding. So I would say that's a big piece, but also partnering with tech companies, we were positioning ourselves as forward-thinking, technology leading insurance carrier because we wanted to partner with as many Fortune 100 national companies like USAA, Allstate, Geico, Farmers, Liberty Mutual. All of them did not want to write homeowners insurance in Florida, but they were partnering with carriers like Security First Insurance. So how could we partner with as many tech companies as we could that would deliver the most differentiated and valuable experience that these companies would see as innovative and want to partner with us rather than the 40 other privately held insurance companies in that market? And that is what differentiated us, was our partnership with tech companies. We were delivering experiences. We actually had companies like USAA that valued their brand experience so much, they even call their policyholders members, ask us and just inquire about, hey, that personalized policyholder video that you deliver, we even did a claims personalized video as well. We'd like to co-brand that with you with our policyholders. That was unbelievable to have, to use technology and partnerships as a way to grow our business in our major distribution channel that allowed us to be the largest carrier in our market among 50 to 60 other companies. Was incredible.
That's an incredible story, because just from what you were able to do with them, you took those lessons and now you're building RevUp and you're doing so many incredible things for founders and just the InsurTech space. But one of the things that early stage founders do, they commit a lot of mistakes a lot of times. So what mistakes do you see early stage founders commonly make? And when they're trying to build their brand, and what are some of the things that they could do to improve that process?
So I would say, just going back a little bit on what we talked about, is that they undervalue the presence, their online presence and their persona as a founder. So that's really important. And you can show up in many ways. It's more than social media. It's at events, but it's also your communications through email. It's newsletters and things like that to stay top of mind. But then also tons of different things that you can do. So undervaluing the power of your online presence as a founder is probably one of the biggest things that I see with founders today. Talking about their technologies, features, and benefits versus the value, the outcome. Like I always think, never talk about feature and benefits, talk about the outcome of what those features and benefits provide. Like just take it one step further of what it actually generates for their customers, and then take it another step further of what it actually creates for their company. I think that is another thing. Like always when I'm working with startups or walking through exhibition hall of any event, you see them talking about their features and technology versus the benefits. And then I would say consistency. So one thing that's great about SnapRefund too is that I knew all about your claims payment technology because you guys were consistently talking about that technology in different ways when it comes to the value of what it brings to companies. Even in first conversations with Cody of, you worked for a regional carrier, well, this is what we're doing. He asked about, the value the real value that it would bring. We had a really great conversation about that. So I think really taking the time, you think you might know. That's the other thing, is when you think you have the answer of the greatest value of your solution brings to the market, that's when you know you need to question it even more. Because it's changing all the time. So here's a great thing as well, is why it's important to partner with a company early on and to be a power user of that technology. So you're using that platform, let's say, partnering with SnapRefund. I would have power users within our organization, and I would set up our culture in a way of they're reporting on the outcomes that it's delivering. They're the feedback loop the team is responsible as the feedback loop to both the tech partner and leaders within the company to talk about the value of that technology. Payment technology specifically is so important in that there's no way that an insurance company is going to be able to stay ahead in innovation and leverage modern technology to keep that evolving. So partnering with a company like SnapRefund is also super important. And if we're a power user and we're your favorite client, you're going to probably give us beta. We'll be beta first, or we might have more influence on the direction of where that technology goes. So I think those are the things where tech companies, they get in, and what I've seen too is like when you're onboarding, they're not quite going. You sell, you got the contract, now you're partnered with the company, now you got to onboard and make sure you're sticky within that organization, that they're actually using your solution. And so and it's a real relationship. You're part of that evolution and part of the innovation that we're all going to have to work really, really hard to stay on top of.
One last question for you from my side before I pass it to Anise for the final one of the show. Your clients, they love you, Marissa. Everyone who works with you has so many glowing things to say. What do you think founders value most in your approach?
Probably my work ethic. But I would say I am deeply invested in the outcome. And so I feel like I wear their same founder hat. And so if I'm not successful for them and I'm not delivering the results, then I put a lot of gravity on that, where I know how important survival is and how the tiniest little thing can affect that survival and make 10 other things much harder. So I'm constantly looking at performance. I'm constantly getting feedback, but I think they probably get the sense that I'm in it just as much as they are. And so that's really been a big driver. I've also had to learn that I've got to really look at startup technology and make sure that it's a fit. Like a company has to be, I've worked with some more established companies and they weren't able to implement changes really fast. And so they have to be super agile, and not being able to implement changes doesn't allow me to produce the greatest level of outcome. And that is, I don't get any inspiration out of that. I love achieving great things and then being like, did you guys see that? If I can't do that, then I'm not really that happy. So that's what I think. I think they get the sense that I definitely have a lot of heart in their companies and the success of their company.
And it does show, Marissa. When you speak and anytime I'm around you, I just feel your passion. I feel that you really do care. You care for the company. You care for the founders, and it comes across that way. And that's why we're so happy you could be with us today on this podcast. And it is our 25th episode, so thank you for being here with us for this one.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the SnapRefund Podcast. We hope to catch you guys next week. I'm Anise Taylor.
I'm Cody Eddings.
We'll catch you later. Peace.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.